know, I booted it up on launch day.
Do we expect a game to work on launch day anymore?
Considering launch day was originally like 15 years ago, I had assumed they might have ironed it out.
How's it going to step up against now there's a lot of handheld choice in the gaming space?
I feel like we're hitting a point now where it's like there's a lot of games coming out, but there aren't a lot of good games coming out because we're often just re-releasing the same game again and again and again, generationally.
The destiny for all art is to turn to Fortnite skins at some point.
Actually, like I think PC gaming is more affordable than it's been in years because I think it's $600 will get you the 5070.
Mario Odyssey just ends with Peach turning down Bowser and Mario in their little outfits.
Yes.
They should have gone off, had a little wedding themselves.
Well, they got married.
Well, they should have done because they were both dressed for it.
Welcome everyone to the 13th episode of the TechRadar podcast. My name is Josephine Watson and I'm joined today by Hamish Hector.
Hello!
Dashwood.
Hello, gamers.
And special guest for this episode, Jake Tucker, who is the Editorial Director of the PC Gaming Show.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us, Jake. This week is one for the gamers. Following the long-awaited Nintendo Switch 2 announcement, we'll be answering your burning questions and frustrations, as well as discussing two parallel releases that speak to the shape of the gaming industry moving forwards, the PlayStation 5 Pro and Nvidia RTX 50 series GPUs. But first off, here's Hamish with this episode's rendition of In Case You Missed It.
Thanks, Josie. Gaming in 2025 will almost certainly be shaped by the Nintendo Switch 2, a follow-up to the wildly successful console handheld hybrid. Beyond its design, we likely won't know too much about the device until its dedicated direct on April 2nd, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed for a serious power boost. I want a Pokemon game that doesn't lag like hell, please, and a price that won't make my eyes water like the PS5 Pro. Though gaming looks to be on a pricey upwards trend, with some analysts predicting GTA 6, which is expected to land later this year, could cost between $80 and $100. No, thank you. I don't care how great the campaign is or the GTA Online editions are, I'm not splashing $100 on a standard edition title. Unfortunately, more evidence of rising gaming costs are no clearer than with the recently launched Nvidia GeForce RTX 5090, which will set PC gamers back $2,000. That is, if they can get their hands on one. The more affordable RTX 5080 has been equally challenging to score, with scalpers and scammers taking advantage of the low stock to sell the GPUs at massively inflated prices, or simply tricking people into buying photographs of the graphics card they desire. If new gaming hardware is a bit too hard to score, then at least we can take advantage of the bevy of adaptations, bringing our favourite games to film and TV. Sony has announced that alongside The Last of Us Season 2 coming in April, and the Until Dawn movie, is also developing Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Helldivers 2 shows. The movie is seemingly replacing the Horizon Zero Dawn MMO, which has reportedly been scrapped as the games industry tries to decide if live service games are the future or a complete misadventure. Multiverses has announced it's joining Concord in a litany of other failed live service attempts, as it's set to shutter in May, while EA says Dragon Age: The Veilguard failed because it wasn't a live service title. Though online-only games seem fine until the PlayStation Network goes down for over 24 hours and locks you out of your entire game library. Lastly, everyone on the TechRadar podcast wants to wish The Sims a belated Humpel Borknar, as the original game turned 25 on February 4th. Thanks, Josie.
Cheers, Hamish. It's been an exciting start to the year for the gaming side of things. But let's dig into some of those topics. So I wanted to start up by going over some of those Sony announcements at CES, because you were actually on the ground for them, weren't you?
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise because normally CES is like really tech focused, and they were like, and here's Neil Druckmann to talk about The Last of Us Season 2 coming out. And then they announced all these other announcements as well, like the Horizon Zero Dawn movie. They showed wasn't a clip of the Until Dawn movie. It was with one of the actors talking a bit about it. And then they showed a quick splash image of Helldivers 2 and the Ghost of Tsushima show as well. Of it's going to be an anime style. It's actually going to be based on the Legends multiplayer mode as well, rather than the original game's main story.
Really cool. And you're quite a big fan of Horizon Zero Dawn as well, right?
Yeah, I don't know. The story I found in that first game was kind of a bit of a surprise at various points. I think it does some really cool stuff of a post-apocalyptic adventure. And I just sort of fell in love with it. I think it's always been a bit of a shame that it's also landed, the Horizon games have landed alongside some other big game that's very similar. Because I think it was Breath of the Wild for Zero Dawn, and then what came out at the same time as Forbidden West?
Wasn't Ark, was it?
I want to say Elden Ring. It
might have been Elden Ring. It was some other video game that's really similar. But I think Horizon does some really cool stuff. So I'm kind of excited for the movie, but also I'm I just kind of want the third game to come out, because I'm also kind of happy the MMO's not happening, because it's just I'm sure that would be fine. But the strength of those titles are just the main plot.
Yeah.
And I feel like an MMO doesn't have the sort of, can't focus on Aloy's story, which is what I'm invested in, because you can't have like millions of players all being Aloy in a server where you're all doing the same thing.
And obviously, a show can explore that story more. I guess it'd be interesting to open out to the room and find out a little bit about what you guys feel about when you see adaptations like this. I mean, are you either of you big fans of Horizon Zero Dawn?
Well, to be honest, I've actually never met anyone who has expressed any interest in Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, I've reviewed.
So this is actually we found him, someone who likes Horizon Zero Dawn. I hear it's great, but I don't know. I played
I've reviewed both of them, and I don't have any opinions on it whatsoever.
It's one of those things where
most-
it's like you stop playing, you just forget about it. It's just done. It's like I played, I don't know, like
It's Sony's worst franchise.
Damn.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Getting red for film.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'd rather play Knack.
Oh, yeah, but that's
Them
not
fighting words.
fair, is it? That's really underselling now.
But what about the other things that have been announced to becoming adaptations for film and TV?
I'm going to jump in ahead of you here.
Yeah, feel free.
I usually hate adaptations, but I actually thought that The Last of Us adaptation was so much better than the game. Like, actually, there's a really weird thing with The Last of Us game because it's like, oh, isn't it, the violence that we're forced to do and the way society has to fall apart, isn't that gross? Kill 50 people while you think about it. And it was really, and actually, that's like really incongruous. They do the same thing on Uncharted 4. They're like, oh, isn't it a shame, all of the like human cost to what we're doing? Kill 100 unnamed mercenaries.
Yeah.
So I thought the TV show was really, really good. And so I'm really excited to see. I mean, I'm less excited about The Last of Us Part 2 because I thought the story politically was a little bit messier. But I still think that's a really good idea. So actually, if Sony want to explore turning more of their franchises I don't like Horizon Zero Dawn, into movies, then maybe I will enjoy them more. But usually I think it's a bit of a cash-in, and I think it's something that we're going to see a lot more of now because games are so expensive to make and the budgets behind games, like it's very, very hard to be profitable, that you really need to be looking at like kind of an extended universe for anything now. So I would say like, Helldivers 2 has been a pretty big hit for them, but probably still hasn't made them a huge ton of money in terms of how much they're spending on it.
I guess, yeah. That would make sense.
Any game you see now that is even vaguely successful, I would expect you to see it popping up everywhere, whether that's Fortnite skins or a TV show or movie of its own.
Fortnite skins, no. The destiny
Josie.
for all art is to turn to Fortnite skins at some point. What about you, Dash? What's your vibe on adaptations like this?
Completely neutral, to be honest.
Okay.
They just don't really interest me. I think if I wanted to experience a Horizon Zero Dawn story for some reason, let's imagine I'd been in some kind of accident, I would just play the game. Like the game's right there. They even did a Lego game where you can, Lego Horizon.
I hear that's bearable.
I've not
It's actually
played that
fine,
one,
but what it
unfortunately.
does is it condenses the story of the game so you can experience the Horizon story without actually having to play Zero Dawn. So, like, there are multiple ways to consume this story. I don't know. I go straight to the source, stick with the original. I mean, animated stuff can always be fun because that's, I think, like, something like The Last of Us is, and I do completely agree with what you were saying about the fact that, like, thematically it doesn't really gel with the medium that it's in. But something like The Last of Us playing it is very close to kind of television anyway.
Yeah.
Like, when you take like Ghost of Tsushima and you're like, we're going to make it animated, I think that's already like way more interesting than just being like, we're going to tell the same story again in like a very similar format.
Because I think I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima right now for the first time because I was an Xbox gamer, so I've steadily, like, since getting a PS5 a couple of years ago, like trying to go through the Sony back catalogue.
Wait, so when did you play Zero Dawn for the first time?
I played it. I think I played it a little bit on PC a couple of years ago. I played like the first chapter whenever I like had to review a laptop. It was like an easy go-to.
So it's a recent failure in taste.
Oh my God. You guys are reading Hamish. You're not
there's
welcome
some
on the
really
podcast
fun-
again. Be
Yeah.
nice to Hamish.
No, I'm just imagining. You went to like Argos or something. You got a PS5. You got home and you were like, "Oh boy, I can't wait to play a game from 10 years ago."
Well, I got it completely for free because I knew I wanted a PlayStation 5 and
Oh,
they
that's
gave it
fair.
away during COVID. So I was like, I've got a Sony account. I'm going to download it now. And when I get a PS5, I can play it. And I thought it was fantastic. I think there's some really cool story beats. Spoilers for probably, as you say, like a 10-year-old game.
Spoiler warning.
Like the kind of the reveal of like Zero Dawn being we're gonna lose, so we're gonna have to set up a situation where a new group of people can somehow be grown and born and thrive. I think that's like a really cool way to tackle like having the sadness of an apocalypse situation without trying to be like, oh, here's how we save it. Because I feel like sometimes apocalypse stories either go the route of like we've completely collapsed with like The Last of Us, or they go like we've managed to save it and do this cool thing. Whereas this was no, we failed, but here's how we're going to grow something fresh from the ashes. I think that's kind of like a life finds a way kind of story, which is like simultaneously happy and sad, which is a bit more fulfilling than being all in one emotion.
The thing we've learned more than anything is that I shouldn't play Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, give it a miss.
But I feel like I'm on this side of the studio, so I feel like I should like side with Hamish.
Look, there's a limited amount of time on this earth. If you want to spend that playing Horizon Zero Dawn, that's on you.
Forbidden West, you get Lance Riddick as Silence. He's great.
Hamish just quietly intoning music. You should play Horizon Zero Dawn just in a corner.
Well, a game I do want to spend a lot of time playing in the next couple of months is the remastered version of The Sims 1 and 2. And Dash, I'm super jealous. You've already spent some time in the games.
I have.
Are there many changes? What's your sort of feeling of it?
Well, the biggest change I noticed straight away was that The Sims 2 doesn't work anymore. When I first played it, it would launch, and now it doesn't do that.
Okay.
They have, however, come out, and to be fair, for clarification, this was on launch day. I booted it up on launch day.
Do we expect a game to work on launch day anymore? I just sort of
that's
thought we'd
kind of
given
on
up
you,
on
Dash,
that.
more than it is on EA at
Considering
this
launch
point.
day was originally like 15 years ago, I had assumed they might have ironed it out, in the meantime. But
No, this is a full remaster. They've brought all the modern expectations to the game.
yeah, they were
Exactly.
like, we've got to re-release it so that modern audiences understand it, and step one is making sure it doesn't work on day one. No, so I got really excited. I was like, yippee, can't wait to do some Sims. I pressed launch and instant error message, and I was like, oh, this isn't happening.
Brutal.
But The Sims 1 did work, and it's very good.
With the remaster, you get both Sims 1 and Sims 2. Do you get any of the others? Just those
You
two?
have to buy them separately, right?
Why would you?
You can buy them separately, or you can buy them together, which I think what most people did. It's like
Why would you get
$35.
both? Why would you not just get? What's the advantage?
Well,
of
Sims
going
1
for
They're
works.
different games.
Yeah.
Are they
Sims 1
that
launches.
different?
They are very different. Yeah.
Okay, because I'm like I know I've played maybe like 30 minutes of Sims total across all of them in my life.
Your babies in The Sims 1 can never grow up. So if you want to make an entire house full of nightmarish crying baby cots, you can only do that in Sims 1.
Okay, because my experience
Best use case.
was with The Sims was I can't remember which one it was. Probably Sims 2. Was Mum had seen some study or something about how like playing Sims was meant to be good for like a kid's like mental development in some way. I can't remember, but it's like one of those things probably like
It worked
in
for
the-
me.
a BBC News article or whatever. I was like, okay, you're going to play Sims 2. I was like, okay, I was going along. And at some point, I think my sim didn't know how to cook, started to set a house on fire, and the fire had blocked all of the exits to the house. So there was no way for the sim to escape. It was going to die. So I closed the game, and I sort of lived with the fact that if I never open the game again, the sim never dies.
But did you learn something from it?
I learned try not to cook if you don't know how to cook,
Well,
which
they-
I guess was like pretty...
Run away from your
It's
problems.
good advice
Positive
for a
development
child.
then. Your mum was right. You
Yeah,
learned
yeah.
something.
Exactly.
What I really like about it is I found out recently that The Sims 1 is supposed to be like...
Doll's House.
Well, it's supposed to be like a satire of like the American dream.
Yes.
And the whole point is that you're not supposed to be able to do this. There's not supposed to be time for you to do everything. And that's actually my life of ADHD.
And I guess the thing that's really interesting about this return to the first two games is that we know Sims 5 not happening. We know that Project Rene is, but we have no idea what that's going to come out like. We also know there's a bunch of Sims-like games in the works. Some have been scrapped, Life by You. Have we peaked in life simulation is the question. Can you make a game as good as Sims 2, which is the best one? Sorry, not sorry.
No.
Sims 2 is better than Sims 4, and every other one followed. You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think with like modern audiences' expectations of what kind of a AAA life simulator in 2025 would be, I just don't think it's technically possible. People like to rag on The Sims 4 a lot for being like really limited, and they'll be like, why does it only render in one building while I'm playing?
Because The Sims 3 was unplayable.
Yeah, and it's like, did you play The Sims 3? That didn't run in when it came out. That ran on nothing. It still doesn't run on anything.
Yeah.
I try and play that now. It's like you spend like 2 hours in it. By the end of those 2 hours, it is a slideshow.
Yeah.
And it's like now stick modern visuals on that and see how that goes. Have fun with that when you're and like most people who play like The Sims, they're like more casual gamers, you know. They're playing on like laptops from 5 years ago with like integrated graphics, and you're complaining that you can only see one room at a time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I get laughed at by Matt Hansen, our computing editor, because he built me very kindly a very, very good PC, and then all I did was play Sims on it for like.
When it worked, when it finally
worked so well. And I think with the looking at bringing back The Sims 1 and 2, what's really interesting is you see a lot of people ragging on it online. You see a lot of people being like, oh, having to pay for old games again, rah, rah, rah. This is actually what Simmers have wanted for a long time. And it's one of the only times where I've looked at a remastering of a game and been like, oh, thank God they've done this, because people actually want it.
The thing is, I game on PC, right? So actually I can play a lot of older games, but there's a really big gulf of like kind of 360 and PS2, PS3 era stuff that just never really made it to PC in like a usable context that I can now kind of play. And I am okay to exchange currency for goods and services when that is the end result, you know?
And I guess that's kind of what you're doing with your PlayStation as well, right? You're going through that back catalogue
Just bad.
of games.
That timeless classic, Horizon Zero Dawn. They're going to be talking about that in 10 years.
Well, weren't they talking about
Sony's
making a
gonna
remake of
assassinate
that
you.
at some point?
Oh, were they actually?
Well, I think that's when remakes start to go. That's a bit silly, folks. Like, it came out fairly recently. But if you're going back like quite a few years, you know, things like the Resident Evil remakes they did with like 2 and
2 was so good.
3 and 4, like those remakes are really good because also they modernized the thing. You know, they modernized the gameplay, modernized the controls. Because, you know, playing 4 on tank controls, it's really weird when you're used to modern gaming now. And it's so you know, having Resident Evil 4, the story, better graphics, and also controls that you are used to is really cool. When it is just, oh, here's a game that came out like a few years ago and we're gonna update it because we've got a new console now. I was like, okay, I guess, but also like, I don't want to spend another $60 on this same thing, which I bought
I actually,
in living memory, very recent memory.
No.
to rag on Sony equally across the board, I actually think everything they do with Last of Us is kind of like the most cynical. Like, it was like The Last of Us came out on PS3, and then there was like The Last of Us remastered on PS4, which I bought, and then towards the end of that life cycle, there was like, oh, like The Last of Us like super remastered.
Oh yeah, they did
and
the
then,
second
and
one.
on the
didn't they?
PS5,
Part
there's like
one,
a Last of Us part, and it's just like, I don't
It's too much.
care if the rug. And you know what? I own it because Sony kindly sent me a copy, and I played it a little bit. But it is the same game. It just looks really pretty, and I think that's the best way to now experience it. But I wonder if, as someone who already played it, I'm actually not the target audience.
That's what I want, because I'm the audience of I've not played these games, so I'm going to get the PS5 versions, and they're going to look really pretty.
And they are.
And I'm not going to be annoyed because I've not bought the game previously. So I guess from that perspective, it makes a bit more sense. But hey, it's weird.
But then I do think that time frame of when that happens should be extended a little bit, though, because 10 years, 15 years, that's still quite a small jump. I feel like if they're going to do it, give it a little bit more time to breathe.
It's a shame to not see a studio making look, because I have no doubt that actually to make the rug move really nicely in Last of Us Part 1, like, and this sounds like I'm going to make a joke, but I'm actually really, like, it's actually really, really impressive tech.
Yeah.
And it is a shame that the, no doubt, scores of people that had to work on making that pretty didn't just get to make a new game. I feel like we're hitting a point now where it's like, there's a lot of games coming out, but there aren't a lot of good games coming out because we're often just re-releasing the same game again and again and again, generationally.
Or making a series. Before we go on to talk about the main topic, I want to also just continue the ragging on Sony trend because just this weekend, just gone as of filming, we saw a huge PSN outage. Over 24 hours with gamers not being able to access their titles. It's a growing reminder for me, at least, of how important physical media is, but also of the fact that we are kind of beholden to outages these days. Jake, you've been following the story. What happened?
Yes, I mean, first, welcome to our podcast sponsored by Sony.
I don't think they'd be
Well,
very...
not yet. The money's worth. They sponsored this.
No, I actually, look, I mean, outages happen. I think there's obviously a big problem when it's an outage for your entire console, and I do feel bad actually mostly for the Monster Hunter Wilds beta players who kind of got locked out of that. The beta's now going to be extended and there's going to be a bit more time, but actually I feel really bad for people who like cleared their calendars. Well, this is the weekend I'm going to play Monster Hunter, and then didn't actually get to. My friend Fallon was furious the whole way through the weekend because she cleared her deck. She didn't go to like a thing a lot of my friends went to. She was like, well, I'm going to be playing Monster Hunter. No, she was not. But I think I'm actually really understanding. I think, you know, it's fine. Go out, touch grass, like play something else. It's actually okay. I think the big issue that this shows is that forcing account requirements into like Helldivers, for example. If you look at Helldivers 2 and the way that PC players were forced to embrace PlayStation Network accounts for a little while, this kind of shows where that goes wrong, because if that was still the case and it hadn't been rolled back, everyone on Helldivers 2 on PC would have also been locked out. And I find that's kind of like, that's wild. And I think, look, I'm actually not going to give Sony too much trouble for this. I think this is bad no matter where it happens. Like Ubisoft do this with Uplay. EA have only just abandoned the Origin app, but they used to use that for that.
Horrific
like,
app.
I think it kind of sucks now that you buy a game and so you buy it on Steam, right? You know, I'm going to talk about PC gaming because that's kind of where my background is, right? You buy a game on Steam and then you have to connect to a second third-party service to make that work. And if that doesn't work, you can no longer play the game. I think like the DRM, you know, the kind of rights management is already handled by Steam. It's wild to consider that you wouldn't be able to play like Helldivers.
So because you also talked to Josie about like, oh, I hope like everything's like physical media nowadays, but like I put in a disc for like The Last of Us Part 2 to download that. And I'm downloading like 100 gigabytes of game. And it's like, well,
I suppose,
it's just a digital download code in a disc form at this point. It's like, it's not really on the disc. The disc does nothing for me.
That's true.
And that's just, it's absurd that I was waiting for like an hour to play a disc game.
Yeah.
And
but that's always been the case to some extent. You know, like Sims 2, I remember used to have to, so just to bring it back round, where my comfort zone is. You used to have like 5-6 hour downloaded. That
well, yeah, because of the IKEA content pack.
No.
You've got to cram all that furniture in there.
It was the Katy Perry one with all of the garish colours and loudness.
And the singing
awful expansion.
Yeah, awful, dreadful.
What's your favourite Katy Perry Sim song?
I couldn't tell you because I have definitely blacked them out of my mind.
Kind of a fake fan.
Really didn't. I didn't like Katy Perry. I was too cool at the
But
time.
you've got the DLC.
Well, yeah.
You were like, I don't like Katy Perry.
The ranking of importance, like, yeah, exactly.
Hate
Love
for
for
Katy
Sims,
Perry.
need for more content, hatred of Katy Perry. That's the order of importance. So I wouldn't listen to anything. I just wanted the clothes and the furniture and stuff.
Yeah, but
and
it was horrible. Like the clothes.
yeah, I know,
was
but
horrible.
I needed to have it. I am EA's target
It's a
audience.
completion
They got you.
I am a completionist.
Josie, what are you doing?
Nothing. Totally focused. 100% productivity. Yep.
But we're recording the podcast. We're like in the middle of a shoot.
Well, no, yeah.
Wait,
just,
Josie, are you playing games?
No. I would never. I'm very professional. Very professional. Anyway, you can't see me because I've got my VPN on.
Josie, that's not how a VPN works. It makes your online activity invisible. It doesn't make you invisible.
So you could see me playing Infinity Nikki on the team meet this morning.
Yes, we could see you.
And last week you could see me when I was playing on my Nintendo Switch.
Yes, we could see that. And we could also see you playing Baldur's Gate 3 and everything that happened with Halsane. And yeah, it was a little bit awkward.
Okay.
Yeah, while a VPN won't make you invisible at work, the sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN, will help keep your online activity private. A gaming VPN will stop you getting your bandwidth throttled by your ISP and avoid lags, DDoS attacks, and access to content from your home country even when you're traveling.
Let's be real, there's nothing worse than a random lag spike mid-boss fight because your ISP is throttling your connection.
Oh, and if you ever play online, Nord's anti-DDoS protection makes sure salty opponents can't just boot you off the server out of spite.
Plus, NordVPN won't just protect you in-game. Changing your IP address makes you harder to track when using public Wi-Fi, helping you to keep safe and protect your personal data no matter where you are.
Based on our testing, NordVPN was incredibly successful at unblocking content, providing speeds that will allow you to game for hours without fear of lag. NordVPN came out on top of our VPN testing for 2024, and now we've got an exclusive deal for our loyal podcast listeners. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/TechRadar. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan.
Plus, as part of NordVPN's 13th birthday celebrations, you can actually get 6 months extra free on the Plus and Ultimate plans. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box below. That's nordvpn.com/TechRadar.
Thanks to Nord for sponsoring this episode.
I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 first. Dash, has anything new come out, rumours or otherwise, since we had that first reveal, which we reacted to on the YouTube channel? Make sure to check it out.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
But has anything new come out since then?
Yes. Not a lot of it. Quite a lot has kind of been circulating on the old rumour mill. As you might recall, in the lead up to the Nintendo Switch 2 being unveiled, we all basically knew what it was. All the experts in places like Reddit, where experts reside, were doing things like posting photos of the Joy-Con. We knew like basically what all the features were going to be. It turned out to be fairly accurate. And some of those sources have like continued putting out new leaks and rumors now that the Nintendo Switch 2 has already been revealed. The one that springs to my mind recently was the idea that the new boxes for the games are going to be slightly larger. So this is proper riveting stuff.
Hot news.
Yeah,
How much bigger?
this is huge.
If this is like a normal size box.
Yeah. It's like a couple centimeters in both directions, like 3 and 3.
So more like
let's say.
DVD box size.
So they're a lot closer to like DVD box size.
Oh, like every other game uses.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much.
For
Is
every
that just so it's more consistent across those other things?
Well,
or is
that's what makes it interesting because. And I
be
say
judge of that.
interesting, really stretching the meaning of the word there. But no, is that like just a kind of an appearance thing? Have they done that so when you're looking at a shelf in a store, you can see, oh, that's a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive game? Because obviously there's backwards compatibility, so they want some way of letting you know.
But I would have thought they'd go smaller rather than bigger, because one of the biggest criticisms I had about the game boxes is tiny cartridge
unless the cartridges
box with excess plastic.
But they could be going
wasteful.
back to the GameCube style mini disc.
But I doubt it.
They're
If
not going
there's-
to.
if there's going to be backwards
They get
compatibility,
UMD.
I would doubt it.
So the big question from this is not, oh, the boxes are going to be bigger. Well, hey, it's will the physical cartridges be bigger as well? Because if you kind of think back to the 3DS and the DS, they added the like tiny little notch on the 3DS
did,
cartridges. So if you were like me and an enterprising 7-year-old and you were like, I'm going to put a 3DS game in my DS to see what happens, you like physically can't. It would stop you from putting it in. Are they going to kind of increase the size of the Switch 2 boxes so that they won't fit in a Switch? Will they be slightly bigger? Will they have like a weird shape to them?
The weird shape thing I'd be fine with,
Yeah,
because it stops people from jamming cartridges or trying to play them on incompatible consoles. That's fine. If they completely reshape them,
Well, we know
How-
from
does that mean that-
from the reveal video that it has like a similar slot.
yeah.
So in theory, it will be like very similar, and like that slot has to play the original cartridges as well.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know. I'm thinking maybe they'll add like a centimeter or something onto them, just make them that little bit fatter. Maybe
Yeah.
stick them in a new color or something. The possibilities are truly endless, and it's pretty exciting.
So we did our first impressions video. We had some good comments, as have some of our sister sites like Tom's Guide, PC Gamer, Games Radar. I wanted to go through some of the negative comments because, as always, when Nintendo does something, people who do not like Nintendo and have never liked Nintendo decide to remind everyone of their feelings about Nintendo. Some of them have valid criticisms. So the first comment I've got is, it looks the same as the original Switch with grey controllers. In fact, it's basically a Switch OLED Pro. Will people actually buy this trash? Which I'm going to translate into, is it different enough from the original Switch?
I mean, mistake number one. Sorry, buddy. You said grey controllers. They're actually black. Don't know if you saw the reveal there, pal, but that's a different colour. They're also.
Shade.
It's a shade. It's not black's not a colour.
Okay.
Get it right,
If we want to
Dash.
get in technical, you're the commenter.
Yeah. No, I wrote that
You're
comment.
correcting me.
Anyway.
You're going to be in the comments on this podcast. Like, it's actually shade.
I actually look, man. I mean, as a Switch Pro OLED actually sounds like the thing that everyone wanted, right? When the OLED came out, people were like, "Oh man, we wish this was more powerful."
Yeah.
Like, so cool.
I guess the comment, and there's another comment we'll get to in a moment as well, is about as much as the fact of we don't actually know that it is OLED. It might be going back to LCD,
It
and then
probably
there
will.
might be an OLED version come out in the future, as well as a light version, because they like having their, this is the baby version that comes out first after the main console, and then later on down the line, the optimized version display-wise or
I
with other
forgot
features.
the bad Switch, the one without the detachable joysticks that you can't plug.
I
a
mean,
Switch
no,
in.
I will go to
Yeah, lots of
bat
people
for
love
the
the
light
light.
because
Yeah.
it's the perfect thing for a casual gamer,
It's very
and there are
cute.
so many people who fall into that thing. And realistically, Nintendo is a price point manufacturer, right?
Yeah.
Making something that's even more accessible and affordable was a genius move from them, and always has been.
I stand behind
think.
a Nintendo Switch bad. If
Okay.
people want that, that's okay.
Okay, that's good. Good for
I think
you.
I think it's a big question overall with the Switch. I know we're going to talk a few more, but it is like, how's it going to step up against now there's a lot of handheld choice in the gaming space? Because, and the other options are these like Steam or PC-like hardware where you've got access to so many more games
and kind of more optimized graphics and specs, so the stuff kind of runs a little bit more smoothly than it does on a Switch. Like I kind of referenced it in case you missed it. The most recent Pokemon games run really bad, and I also enjoy watching like some VGC content of Pokemon, and it's really weird to see in these official tournaments the game's running real bad.
Yeah.
Like that's not what you want.
The people buying a Switch and like the large swathes of the demographic that actually matter aren't people that would buy a Steam Deck.
No.
Give a 13-year-old a Steam Deck and just see how that ends. It's like, hello, little Timmy. For Christmas, I've got you this Linux PC thing where most games kind of work, some of them don't. Have
Can a
fun.
13-year-old lift a Steam Deck?
No, I don't. They're little wrists. Just snap.
With my wrists, I can play in handheld mode for like 3 hours at most before I'm in like actual agony.
It's horrible.
I think the real thing, and commenters won't get this right because they're kind of like, if they're really big tech fans, then yes, actually, a Lenovo Go or the ROG Ally, I think, which is
really good.
agony to use. But once you have set it, well, because it's it's actually Windows, and you have to set it up using a touchscreen. But once it is set up, it is one of the best ways to experience a game.
Yeah.
However, if you want to play Metroid Dread,
Yeah.
and a lot of people do. You want to play Mario Kart? You need a Switch. Like Nintendo have got a captive audience because it's like, hey, the next Mario game, the next Smash Brothers, the next like Splatoon, those will all come on Switch too. And so you're going to have to buy that, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But actually, all of the people that complain about the power, and we haven't seen much about the specs on it, if anything. And I think they will be substantially lower even than like a PS5 now.
Yep.
It will be a generation behind.
Yeah.
But they made Breath of the Wild happen on like what, a Tegra chip?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, even though I'm not the biggest Nintendo fanboy.
While there were performance issues, still remain performance issues in both of the Zelda games that came out, the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, they're really not that bad. It's like the occasional few seconds here and there, like build a bridge, get over it. But I mean, a couple of the comments there we've covered already, like no OLED display, no thanks. Did Nintendo learn nothing from the first generation model? 1 step forward, 3 steps back. You can't cure stupid. Always love the spicier takes. And then we were talking a little bit there about the sort of handheld PCs that this gets compared to a lot. One of the things that was commented was it doesn't need a mouse mode. Steam Deck has already proven that handhelds don't do mice well. Now, that's a trackpad, not a mouse. The Lenovo Legion Go has
pretty good, honestly.
has a mouse thing,
but
and it
it's more
works
like
really well.
But it's also more like a joystick
It's like a proper
orientation,
mouse,
isn't it?
So it's like a vertical mouse.
A vertical mouse, yeah.
Like you get the Joy-Con knockoff, and it has like an optical sensor on the bottom, and you get like a little plastic shell thing, and you stick it in it, and you can go like that and use it as a mouse, and you hold the other one like that, and you
It
go like
looks
that.
really cool.
It works really well.
I haven't tried it myself.
It's really good to use. Like if you prop it up and you're playing like a first-person shooter game, it is fantastic. So like, yeah, the weird trackpad things that kind of vibrate and purr at you while you play are a bit disconcerting and unpleasant.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, far from showing that a mouse can't work on a handheld, I think stuff like the Legion Go actually shows that it can work, and it can work really well.
And we don't know that Nintendo is going to be using it as that sort of typical mouse input that you experience from a computer. And we talked about that a little bit in our reaction video.
Well, luckily, the mad lads down at the patent office have recently made public, the boys down there, they recently made public some patents from Nintendo from 2023. And obviously these are patents, so don't get too excited. Anything can change. And the patents kind of outline how the Switch's 2 Joy-Con will be used as a mouse. And they have multiple diagrams with some illustrations of rather like fat hands holding this Joy-Con like that, and using it like a mouse. So we are fairly certain that is how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Which obviously isn't quite the same as the Legion Go, because that had the vertical thing.
Yeah.
But I think kind of that traditional mouse motion of moving around like that is what it's going to be.
And it being Nintendo in like Switch 1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever they call it, they will use that as a little mouse to steal cheese by running across the floor or the kitchen or something.
And that's kind of the reason we did a WhatsApp poll, because I was intrigued to hear about what people were most excited by. And people were not excited by the mouse mode. People were more excited about the button that we don't know what it does, than they were about the fact that we have
USB-C ports is great.
2 USB-C ports. Is
It's 'cause you've
exciting.
given
We're
it a
going to
great
talk about
name.
that.
The button you don't know what it does is a fantastic name.
mysterious.
Well,
I wanna know what it is.
sure. The intrigue is higher, but in terms of excitement, maybe I should have been a little bit more focused with my verbiage with the question. But I think the mouse mode is so exciting because Nintendo, when it takes an idea for how to play a game, it then makes games around it. It makes it fun and whimsical and a little bit different. That's why the Wii Motion gameplay was more exciting and fun than the rest of the market at the time. And a lot of people were trying to do motion, and I don't think anyone did it the same way that Nintendo did or as well. So that's really exciting for me, but everyone's hating on the mouse. Everyone's hating on the mouse.
Everyone's used a mouse. Like your gran has used a mouse. Has anyone used the
My gran
mysterious
hasn't
Switch
used a
button? I don't think so.
Maybe. We don't know what it does, so I might have.
We don't know what it is. That's interesting. What could it be?
I think you've got to give Nintendo some faith here, and I think it doesn't actually matter what us or like tech smart people, like those who comment on the TechRadar website, think. There's still going to be millions of people who just take a punt on it anyway, and I think Nintendo will not let those people down.
No.
Obviously, we're kind of at like end Switch now, and like Nintendo release games are kind of weird re-releases or like no one really wants this, but like actually for a solid 2 years after the Switch came out, it was just hit after hit after hit, and I'm fairly certain they'll do the same. I mean, we've got Metroid Prime 4 coming, we've got a Mario Kart.
That's true. We have also unconfirmed, but everyone will assume a new Zelda game will come as part of the first few years of the Switch 2. Odyssey 2.
I really liked Mario Odyssey. I want another one.
It will probably happen. It's been like 7
I know.
years.
I just want another one where you like are capturing stuff. That was a really fun mechanic.
Didn't Odyssey, like at the end of it, kind of rewrite the Mario lore, or was that a different one?
I don't.
Was it Galaxy or was it Odyssey?
Galaxy's the one where they
Galaxy.
do the weird stuff with the
Galaxy
lore
at the
and
end, it's like, and now the timeline has been reset. It's like, well, this isn't Zelda.
Mario Multiverse.
No one's worrying about the timeline here.
Mario Odyssey just ends with Peach turning down Bowser and Mario in their little outfits.
Yes.
They should have gone off, had a little wedding themselves.
I do remember that.
Well, they got married.
Well, they should have done because they were both dressed for it.
I think that was the
It
implication.
was a waste
They
of
were
a
at
good wedding.
church. Yeah, exactly.
I
You
think
spent all that money.
I think that's the implication. I think Nintendo's never going to let them actually get married. The same as like, we will never see Zelda and Link kiss, and I have to be okay with that for the rest of my days.
I can't believe in the same way you're like, look, Zelda and Link are never going to kiss. And Mario and Bowser will never be in a same-sex relationship that ends in a marriage.
But we all know it's what we want from them.
It's true. I mean, everyone's asking who's Bowser Jr.'s mum, and I think the big question is who's his dad's.
So one last comment I wanted to read here, and it's possibly the most ire-filled one I selected, which was, been almost a decade and apparently they couldn't improve on controller design in any meaningful manner. The only way I'm ending up with one of these is if they become moddable. Though in comparison, I'd gladly just take an AY and Odin Portal. In addition, I'd only recommend the atrocious Ninty ecosystem to my enemies. So unless there's something amazing hiding in that Tegra chip, this is a console for the uninitiated and children. And they're correct on the latter part. It is for children. So congrats. I think this is an interesting one because they said they haven't improved on the controller design. Well, no, it's not different. It's an iteration, but it's bigger. Which is going to make it more comfortable.
They haven't seen the mystery button yet.
They haven't.
Once that comes out, they're going to be like,
or they haven't
damn.
seen mouse mode yet. There's a lot we don't know. For someone to have this much ire, I just found quite interesting.
Yeah, we don't even know what the chipset is, right?
I think
so to even like say that's going to be a whole holding it back is like, it's going to have better specs, surely, than the Switch One.
I think it's really sweet that the guy wants his enemies to play a new Mario Kart and Metroid Prime 4.
That's quite nice.
Yeah. I don't wish this on my enemies. Well, good for you, man. I'm glad you're having a good time.
Your enemies are happier than
but
you are.
I do think he has a point with controller design. Half a point is that actually and I don't know if they've got Hall effect Joy-Cons in yet, but like that they need to fix the drift. That's like a legitimate problem, is that like the whole of the Nintendo Switch life cycle, there was always stick drift. And they were like, it's better on the later ones. And it is a little bit, but it still happens. So that needs to be fixed. But otherwise, like, my hands are the same. So it's going to be about the same ergonomically.
I did appreciate they didn't try and put it down to user error, which we've seen across tech hardware in general. People do over the years. There are some big phone manufacturers who are super guilty of that. They have always been like, okay, we'll take them back and we'll fix those first generation ones. But as you say, it continued the rest of it and they never fixed it. You said in the last time we talked about Nintendo that the drift shouldn't be happening with these new ones, apparently.
Yeah, in theory, it will be Hall effect. it would be moronic not to at least change how they're designed, because like, I mean, I know you said they were always like quite nice with repairs. They never ever acknowledged there was actually a problem.
Oh, did they not?
No, never.
I mean, I thought
because they can't
doing
open themselves up to a class action, but they did fix them.
Yeah.
They were like, if for whatever reason your Joy-Con happens to break in some way, we'll fix it for free.
example, a drifting.
Yeah, for example, some kind of drifting issue. No, they were like, we'll fix this for free.
So I think that what we're moving towards Hall Effect. It would be really silly to put a new product out that isn't the standard. I think the only reason that didn't happen with kind of Xbox before and PlayStation is that it came out just as Hall Effect was proven to be.
Right.
It's just much better. It's a thing we should do. It's not, as far as I'm aware, that much more expensive. So it feels like a no-brainer for Nintendo to do it. However, they're usually half a step behind hardware-wise, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're
like, surprise, it's the same drift, everybody. I don't know, this time...
Everything you know and love about your Switch is back, including drift.
We've got it. Maybe that'll get that guy on board. He'll see the drifts coming back and he'll be like, I've got to buy it.
Which is on my worst enemies and my friends.
No, everything about this new design kind of seems a lot more forward-facing. If you look at kind of the move to magnets for attaching the Joy-Con physically, that to me seems like something they've done to reduce the chance of it kind of wearing out over time, because it's not like a physical mechanism. I don't know if you've picked up a Switch from like 2017, 18, 19.
I still have mine.
Yeah.
They rattle. They're just there in your hands like, and they've got to.
I think I must have played so much in docked mode and not in handheld mode that mine just never got that.
I dropped mine enough that they just ping off.
I mean, that's user error. That's you.
Then.
It's fallen down the stairs.
Was it the gamer rage again? Hey?
No, it was just the.
How do you play your Switch?
It's just
walking down the stairs. Like,
you just balance it on something and then it falls and it tumbles.
I thought you said bounce it on something. Then I'm like, okay, now it really is user error.
I play beer pong with my Switch.
Was it the other side, or were you batting with it?
No, you throw it and it lands in a cup.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And if the Joy-Con's picked off, then you get 3 cups at once.
Maybe it's the affordable price point of the Switch that means we feel we can treat them so
abuse it a
poorly.
little bit too much.
But on the complete other end of the spectrum are things like the PlayStation 5 Pro and the 50 series GPUs that we've talked about before. On that side of the spectrum, the trend really is that gaming is kind of pricing out gamers, at least in the sense of like getting that high performance experience, being on the cusp, the cutting edge of gaming. That is narrowing further and further, I feel, from as an onlooker. I'm not someone who ever goes out of my way to get the newest hardware that's of that echelon. Like, I get the PS5, I would never rush to get the PS5 Pro.
People like to complain about how much, and this is a $2,000 GPU for the top end one, and I think that, look, if there are any questions about whether that is the right thing for you, you should not buy that one. But actually, like, I think PC gaming is more affordable than it's been in years, because I think it's $600 will get you the 5070, and the performance in terms of frame increase and just architecture on that is like, I think that's comparable with some of the higher series 40.
They compared
cards.
it to the 4090, I think,
in
terms of performance, which
and it came out
good.
About right. Like, and when they said that, I kind of rolled my eyes and was like, no, that's nonsense. But actually, like, looking at kind of the test that TechRadar has done, the test that we've done over at PC Gamer, like that seems to be comparable. Like, that seems to fit.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of like, maybe the 5090 is not for you. That's okay. But also that they're going to come down. I think actually, if you look at it for years and years now, crypto mining and now this AI nonsense has meant that getting a high-end graphics card is incredibly expensive. But the lower-end graphics cards are actually much better. They're much more available. Like, I know that it feels good to kind of look at your, like, the War Machine, and you're like, oh, well, this is my £2,000 graphics card, but it's not doing anything for you.
Yeah.
And I've got a 4080, so I'm as guilty of it as anyone else, right? But, like, what we're seeing at the moment is that so many people haven't upgraded for so long. Like, I was playing Dota with a friend recently, and I was trying to explain to them, oh, you should get this game. And they were like, oh, will it run? Because I'm still running on a 1080. And it's like, time to upgrade, man. And getting that 5070 is going to be life-changing for playing games. And that's only $600. I recognise that's still more expensive than a console, but it will last you
a lot longer.
Probably another decade.
Yeah. And I think, this thing around, as I say, it's the souped up stuff that feels like it's like squashing gamers, but do you need that to play 80% even of the games that have come out in the last few years. No, you can deal with something.
Yeah, you can get away with probably a 4060 still. Like, and you know, go last year, you can probably get away with like a 30 series graphics card for a lot of stuff nowadays. Like, you don't need. I think there is just a thing of like, it's the hot new thing. Everyone wants it, and I think that's what scalpers rely on with trying to scam people with these like jacked up prices, particularly on the 5080, because that is like just a little bit more affordable, and then also some scammers trying to catch people out with the photographs on eBay, which is always so sad. And I know they say like, oh, I'm doing this to catch out the bots that are scalping. It's like, well, no, you're also going to be catching out like someone that's just not reading it properly and thinks they're getting the graphics card they really, really want because they just click through from like Google's recommended thing rather than actually going through eBay. So that's kind of scummy. But yeah, it's just like, you can also we're all guilty of it, like we want the new thing. But we can just pause a minute.
Just not.
It will be available in a few months. In like 6 months' time, I'm sure getting a 5080 will be a lot easier than it is right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big thing that people don't understand as well is that for so many people, like high-end esports players, high-end competitive players, like I play a lot of Escape from Tarkov, and for a really long time there was a bit of a trend to like, oh well, turn all your quality really down except for texture quality, and then like everything will look kind of jagged and rubbish, and then the things that you see that look good are things you have to shoot. Like, it's not like very few people actually want their games to look incredible.
Yeah.
So there's basically options for everyone. But I actually think that like building a PC and gaming on it now is cheaper than it's been in years.
No, I agree on that side of things. I think it's just that upper echelon bit that people are feeling priced out of, and especially because of the AI boom as well, I think, where perhaps it's more just a case of there's a franticness around feeling like you can't afford or get this high end hardware.
I think it's like, I personally am being priced out of 6 month long inclusive holidays to Japan.
Yes.
You know, like, and I feel like I should be able to afford those. And I feel like if we brought the price down, I would be able to enjoy
It's general economic distress, I think, is probably more the problem than the cost of the individual thing that you want in that moment. But on that vein, I did want to also talk about PlayStation 5 pricing. It has been discussed a few times between us, but when you're looking at, now we're seeing Nintendo Switch 2, we're seeing like the beginning of the affordable cycle of the next generation devices, we're seeing the next wave of PC hardware doing something similar, doing something very different rather. Where does the PlayStation 5 Pro sit at the moment as we sort of look at this new stuff coming in, as we look at the pricing of it? How does it register in terms of value now? It's been a couple of months, we've had time to sit on it. Dash, you still using it?
Hot take alert. I think it is too expensive for a console. Completely too expensive for a console. As a console user, it's £700 plus like 125 for the standard disc reader is not what I'm personally willing to pay. I would say it's not worth it's not something I would buy, but it is good value. The thing I always like bring up when I like discuss the price of it with people, it's like, go get a £700 PC and try and play Horizon Forbidden West. Maybe not. Try and play Horizon Forbidden West at 4K on a £700 TV and see if you can reach like a solid 60 FPS, because generally you can't, not without kind of like DLSS like properly cranked up, and it's not going to be as nice of an experience. Like, get Alan Wake 2, crank the settings up to max, see how that runs on a £700 PC. Not as well as it would on a PS5 Pro, which is fine. Like, you get different levels of the market. People that can spend £2,000 on a PC and want to max out Alan Wake 2, you can. But like, I don't know. I think the PS5 Pro value-wise is pretty good value. And if you're somebody who really, really cares, like you really, really care, you're like, I want Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to look incredible, and I'm happy to pay £700 for that. Fair enough. If I was in charge of Sony, I would have skimped out on some other aspects of it, maybe move the SSD size down a little bit, stuff like that. Try and cut costs elsewhere to bring the price down, or at least do stuff like throw in the disc reader at no additional cost.
Yeah. That did feel opportunistic.
Because, like, I don't know, it's it's a price point that's not very palatable to console gamers, but I think compared to what's happening in the PC space, it's actually broadly fine.
Yeah.
The big issue actually there is my issue with this is actually like the really expensive graphics cards. No one's targeting those. Developers are not looking for those. What I'm super worried about is that PS5 games are now going to be PS5 Pro games, realistically, as we saw with the PS4. And if you're not spending money that you say it is not worth spending, you're going to have a slightly worse experience.
We are running out of time, so I just want to quickly get a sense from all of you what games you are most excited for coming out the rest of this year. Dash, let's start with you.
Oh yeah, well, unfortunately, I've had all my big ones this month.
That's fine. That counts.
I've been treated to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Civ 7 on like the same week, which was an absolute treat. But in terms of things that are coming out in future, obviously like GTA 6 is huge. I'm gonna buy it. You're gonna buy it. Everyone on your street's gonna buy it. It's like
Not if it's $100.
I think they could price it at 100 and people would buy it. I'd buy it at 100. Yeah. I'd buy it at 125. I'd probably buy it at 150.
Cut the broadcast.
Don't get any ideas. But they could price it, I'd say up to about 100 quid, and people would buy it. Like people pay.
People have been waiting for it for so long.
People pay 110 quid for a COD game every year.
Jake.
Obviously GTA 6, but actually in real terms, Doom, The Dark Ages is going to be fantastic, and I can't wait to play it.
Amazing. Hamish?
I've got two. I'm quite excited playing Ghost of Tsushima, kind of the Ghost of Yotai. I think that'll be quite fun. And also, trying to get it right around, Claire Obscure Expedition 33. When I saw the trailer for that, when it was announced, I thought like that looked really weird and cool. And it's like, cool, oh yeah, I want to try this out. And so yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think it comes out in April, so around my birthday, so that'll be what I'll be picking up.
For me, Civ 7 was my big one. I haven't played it yet, like yourself, but...
Is that right now? Leave now.
Get out of this. Is that what you've been doing on that laptop?
If you think I could focus on anything other than the game while I'm playing the game, you drastically overestimate my brain power. Mario Kart will be up there for me. That is something I will sink hours into learning all of those tracks. I will inevitably be booking time off with my best friend and just sitting and becoming gremlins and playing Mario Kart together, which is exciting. None of us had any non-AAA or at least non-big games in there. Any indies that we're excited for this year?
I mean, my job is keeping track of weird indie games, so I've got a bunch of little stuff that I'm excited for.
Nice.
So Kingmakers sounds really exciting. That's coming from Tiny Build, who are a kind of smaller publisher. Basically, you've got modern hardware and you're killing lots of knights in old times.
Love
so
that.
if you want to see what an M60 can do to a entire army full of knights, Kingmakers will show you. But there's a bunch of stuff like Celico is edging towards early access that I'm really excited about. There's just so much stuff out there. Killing Floor 3 comes out in March, and I'm excited to play that. Like, there's always something exciting. I would say just, go in a direction of things you like and just see what else is out there similar.
Despite my middling review, I'm quite excited for Tales of the Shire. I did the preview for that, and there's a lot that needs to be improved in it. But cozy Hobbiton game, that is something I have been waiting for my entire life. There was lots of room for improvement. I'm hoping that is made in time for release, which is coming out in March. So they've not got long.
I really hope that, like, for 30 hours, that is like a really nice, cozy game, and then it enters the cleansing of the Shire, and then it just
the cleansing of the Shire canonically did not happen for me.
Yeah, there was there was a horror Stardew Valley. It's being published by Blumhouse Games, and they showed up like a 4 back-to-back like horror games, and one of them was like Stardew Valley meets murder mystery.
Grave Seasons.
Yeah, thank you.
Grave Seasons.
I thought that was going to be like a boredom-induced hallucination from your time in Horizon Forbidden West.
And Dash, quickly before we wrap up, anything from you in the indie space that you're excited for this year?
Oh, there is. There is a weird game coming out. I want to say it's called Google it already, please. Right, let's get the memory banks locking in the camera. I'm thinking it's called Chance Abyss Catch the Fake. It's some nonsensical. Am I close?
I got Valorant, so
All
no.
in Abyss.
All in Abyss, judge the fake.
Judge the fake. Boom. I've still got it.
Oh, this looks like a Dash game I've ever seen.
That
It
is-
was announced from the publisher, which is WSS Playground off the top of my head, which stands for Why So Serious, like the Jonker. And speaking of Jokers, this is basically like a solitaire, like a blackjack RPG that's about like cheating. So kind of like Balatro, but like I was going to say more fun, but Balatro is pretty fun. But with a kind of different approach to it. It's like it's quite a narrative experience. The art looks really cool. I quite like card games, and I like cheating at card games. So that's those kind of two interests combined there.
So that is unfortunately all we have time for this week. I want to give a big thank you to Jake for joining us today, as well as Dash, although it's part of your job basically. So
yeah, I was forced to be.
Yeah, not really that big of a shout out. A big thanks to all of you for watching as well. Make sure to check out the rest of our videos on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe if you want to keep up to date with more, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
No thanks for Hamish.
I didn't.
I know I'm here every week.
Absolutely destroyed.
Did I not say thanks to our panel? Did I just say thanks to our
Just thanked us, and then Hamish was sat there looking at you, waiting for a thank you, and you didn't give it to him, and he just
Keep all that in. Keep all that in.